This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 312 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Media Dewormers and TotalSaddleFit.com. Tonight on the show, we've got contributing editor to Dressage Today, Hilary Moore-Hebert, for our favorite segment every month. And we're also going to answer a listener question that we got emailed to us.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer. Again, we have Glenn with us.
Hey guys, 2 weeks in a row. Aren't you feeling special?
Pretty nice.
We are, actually. This is fantastic.
Well, Reese, are you exhausted yet? Your season's just started, but I know what it's like in the spring in Kentucky. There is something you can do every weekend with those horses.
It's true. There's a lot going on here. This is like the busiest. This weekend is probably my busiest of the year because my event horses and my dressage horses go together at the horse park. So tomorrow, twice, I should be warming 2 different people up in 2 different venues out in the horse park. So which is pretty far. You can't actually be in 2 places at one time. I would like to be, but so it's going to be a really busy weekend, but I think we're all happy to have the spring here. Actually, it's very cold here today. I don't know how it is for everybody else.
Hey, Philip, how's it in Canada?
We had a beautiful day.
Really? It's freezing here. I mean, it's like in the 40s. It's very, very cold.
Oh, man.
Well, Philip, now how many horses will you work a day this time of year, and or lessons and or work horses a day? Because this is your super busy season.
Yeah, we're just in it now. So today, not so much because I'm on here with you guys, but normally 8, maybe. The thing about my business is it's about traveling around, right? So I'll drive half an hour, teach a lesson, drive 20 minutes, teach another lesson.
Okay, so you do a lot of driving out.
I'm more freelancing. If I had them all in one spot, I could do a whole bunch more, but we do a few in the morning at one spot, and then it's on the road for the rest of the day. But so that's good though.
I didn't realize you were a traveling gypsy trainer.
I have helmet and will travel, and we train horses.
I didn't
Love
realize
it.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be all in one location, and then I got more into this freelancing thing, and it's kind of nice actually. I like the little break in the car. Listen to the radio a little bit and then get to my next location. And it's not as crazy as how Reese is with everybody all on top of one another in one place.
You know what though, Reese? Do you get to, I work in a studio, so it's a little different. You get to work outside, but you're still at home. Do you find yourself needing to get out of the farm?
Anybody that lives on a farm, there are times where I'm like, I just need to drive to Starbucks.
Exactly.
Sit there for a few minutes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Go to Walmart for a bit.
Walmart. Yeah.
People.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I don't think I've left the farm in 2 days, 3 days. Like, that's not healthy. That's not good. So I have found that. And I think anybody that lives and works on a farm, I'm sure you've had that time where you're like, really, this is not healthy. So that's good. So yes, I do have to get off the farm. And, like one night a week, I personally train like at another farm. So I go off and then, this Thursday night, I'm with you guys. So yeah, I try to definitely balance it. Yeah, it's nice. I think for all of us, it's nice. But yeah, my place is like Grand Central Station right now. I mean, there are horses everywhere today and people and the blacksmith. And how is it that when the blacksmith's there, the vet's there, guys are, I look up at one point and I'm like, I have no control over anything that's happening right now. And I've just had to learn to take a deep breath and let that go. So
let it happen.
Yep. There's just nothing you can do. And at least everybody's there. And you just you can't build barns big enough. My barn is not big enough for all of that activity, but it's all
You're
right.
right about the farrier and the vet, though. You schedule them 4 hours apart and they're still going to be there together.
One's going to be early,
one's
the other
late.
one's going to be late.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Exactly. I think there's a conspiracy, actually.
I think they just travel around together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mine just travel around together and say, let's go get these guys.
It's
Go get
crazy.
Reese
I mean,
today.
yes, let's go get Reese's barn today. And I mean, there were people flying around everywhere, horses jogging, horses getting, I mean, it was just like, it's not good. It's noon and I need a drink. But it definitely keeps it interesting. Again, we're especially this time of year, all the working students are here and we have a changeover. Actually, I'm going to give a shout out to Ashley Rand, who's been my assistant for the year. She's been fantastic. She's going back to school and I have a new crew starting June 1st. So shout out to Ashley for all the hard work she's done for me for the year and looking forward to my new group that's coming in. It should be a lot of fun. So gotta love it.
New trainees.
Yeah.
Boot camp starts
Boot
next week.
camp. Actually, I'm lucky because Mary Shawnee she has been with us here at Maple Crest for the last about 6 months to a year, no, quite a year. And so she's been taking over weekends. And so she graduated from UK and she's taken over the full-time position. So I'm really lucky. This is not going to be, it's already
Smooth
sort
transition.
of, it's very smooth. Yeah. So this one's going to be good for us. But typically when the staff shifts over, it can be a little wild and woolly for a while. So,
well, that's good. And we know how you go through staff.
Yeah, they never leave. That's what I tease them. They never leave. Like I love my girls, and they stick around. They're still in town. Actually, almost all of them are still here. So I love it. It becomes a huge family. So now we just have to have a big barbecue because we always have a barbecue at the end of everybody's sort of time here. So the barbecue is getting really big now, which is great. It's a lot of fun. We have a big time. So looking forward to it this weekend. Right after this word from By Mita Dewormers, we're going to have Hilary Moore Hebert on for her Dressage Today segment.
We all know the importance of deworming our horses, and Dr. Ellefson of By Mita Equine is helping us make sure we are doing it right. Listen for his 4-part series the first week of every month on this very show. I just wanted to remind everyone, if you are due for deworming, why not save a few bucks on the popular By Mita line of wormers, including Equimax, Bimectin, Exodus Multidose, and Equil. You can find coupons and special offers at buymitaequine.com, including a variety of rebate offers from cash to free ivermectin. You can also get up to $2 a dose back for Equimax. And while you're at By Mita Equine, get your free horse health record keeper, and you can just download it there. Plus, learn a bunch about parasites and deworming at By Mita, that's BIMEDA, equine.com. We at the Horse Radio Network all use By Mita dewormers because we want the best for our horses, and we know you want the best for yours too. BuyMitaEquine.com, and tell them the Horse Radio Network sent you.
Okay, guys. So in honor of David Letterman, which I hear some mixed reviews on who likes David Letterman, but I love David Letterman. And in honor of Dave Letterman's retirement, Hilary Moore Hebert, from the contributing editor of Dressage Today, is here with her top 10 tips. Hilary, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
I like this idea.
I love this idea. We're going to have to keep
I'll
track
admit,
of top 10.
I don't watch David Letterman, but it's because I am either in bed way too early or I am out at the barn helping with some medical emergency.
Yeah.
All of which we have, yes, that's me. I used to watch David Letterman in college, but, that was a couple months ago. So, So I love David Letterman.
The number one tip is Reese has been out of college for more than a couple months.
Yeah, that's
yes, I have, unfortunately. Now, yes. I'm gonna tell everybody this story because you'll love this. We're sitting and we're chatting about bronze medals and that kind of stuff. And one of my students comes in and goes, "Oh my God, you got your bronze medal the year I was born." And I was like, "Really?
Oh,
you need to tell me that."
Leave? Did you make her leave?
I was like, I should have made her drop and give me push-ups or something.
Yeah.
I was like, get out.
Run a lap
or something. It was so mean. So yes. So I'm a little sensitive to that topic this week. So we've all been there. So anyways, Hilary, what is your first tip of our top 10 tips, favorite trading tips?
Okay. So, because I don't really know, is it a countdown? So I start with number 10, right? Okay,
yeah,
I'm going to either way.
Yes,
okay,
starting with 10.
I am obsessed with biomechanics. So my first couple of tips relate to that, and they are essential to know. The first thing for the first tip is the canter is an asymmetrical gait because the horse always has a leading leg and flexion on the same side. As a result, canter work is another situation in which there's always an inside that naturally carries more weight and an outside that needs to be engaged in order to balance the horse.
That's a good tip.
That's a really good tip.
That's so that you don't, when your horse is cantering, you don't make motorcycle turns. You have to support the outside and get that side going as well.
Yes. So that the outside hind leg has to move forward more, because in terms of the, footfalls, it's starting with that outside hind leg. And I think that that's extremely important to remember, because if you know that that's the case, every single time you're riding any movement in canter, you can say to yourself, okay, what is that outside hind doing? And how do I need to think of this? And always remembering it's an asymmetrical gait because of that.
It's naturally trailing way behind the horse. So if you can get that outside a little bit underneath the horse, you're going to be a lot better balanced to be doing anything in canter.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
That's a great tip. Love it. Number 9.
So, what's the next? Number 9.
Okay, so number 9, the trot, however, and by the way, these are from the Halt Simplified with Hubertus Schmidt, one of the articles that we have in the magazine. So the trot, however, is a symmetrical gait, so that when your horse is trotting on a straight line, you want both hind legs to push the same, and when you want to collect, you want both hind legs to carry the same weight. So whereas the canter is asymmetrical, taking that outside hind first, the trot is the diagonal pairs. And so when you're thinking about that, it's always related to, how to kind of get things connected evenly behind.
I just have to shout out to Penny. Was that Penny giving us a little
Sorry,
of her
everybody. That was Penny's. My mom's dog is here. I just grabbed her. I'm sorry. Yes, that was shout out to Penny, who was shouting out at everyone else.
Yeah, it's good to think about how the gaits are different from each other and how you have to balance them a little bit differently. So these, great tips to think about how your horse moves and how to improve that.
So then my number 8, and I'm getting to a point here, and you'll see why I think these are so important. So number 8, on a bent line, when the horse's inside leg naturally carries more weight, the horse is correctly on the outside rein because his inside hind leg can swing up and underneath. So this, to me, I think is completely essential for any bending line, is to know that, and this is a word I didn't learn until the L program, the inside hind adducts, it steps up and underneath. Horses don't shorten their inside legs to turn the way that humans do. They step up and underneath, crossing underneath their midline for a proper turn. So, Philip, what you were saying before about the motorcycle turn, this is important to think about because we don't want them shortening their inside hind to kind of zoom around and go on their forehand. We want them to step up and underneath so that their body stays upright through any bending line, 20-meter circle, turning onto the diagonal, or as you get more advanced, thinking about that in smaller circles and anything else that you would be doing.
Yeah, and this is huge. I actually was working with someone today, and it's a 3rd level horse, and now actually we're going for flying changes. And this particular horse, we have been working on her leaning on the right leg since I can't remember, since she was 4. And it's funny now because now this is her first horse that she's trained to 3rd level. She said to me, I understand why she can't do that she needs to step under behind. And sometimes I think you have to get a little further down the journey to understand why it's so important to do that. But it's a huge deal if the horse is leaning and falling in and not carrying their weight. So that's a great tip. And I think everybody really has to watch that on all your horses.
Yeah, I think this is the big one. I know that Hilary was saying that these tips she goes to every day in her coaching, and this one for sure I'm teaching about every single day on every single horse, because we're teaching gymnastics and strengthening for the horse. And this is a very important point. If you want your horse to be strong and gymnastically flexible, and to be able to do the job of dressage, to be able to move in a beautiful way. They have to be able to flex their joints, step under the body, carry weight with the hind legs. So, I mean, this is right from the horses 3 years old doing a 20-meter circle. You have to teach them how, because I was watching a horse today. It's a horse who were just backing, and the rider was riding, and you could see how the horse was turning and not really getting an idea of bend. And then sometimes she would do it right, and you could just see how much more beautiful and how much more balanced the horse was when she made a turn properly on her good side to the other side, where she was using her head and her neck as kind of a rudder and falling all over the place. And you say, well, there's dressage happening right there just for a young horse learning how to turn. I mean, I don't know what this horse could move on to be a jumper horse or a pleasure horse or whatever. But if we teach them these basics, they'll be easier to ride, and they'll be happier to do their job, and they'll be sounder for longer, and all these great things that we talk about in dressage. So I love this point. I think this should be number one. Maybe we'll see what's next.
Yes, no pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am about to blow your mind, because this next one I think is even more important. So tip number 7. Okay, half halts. And this is where, sort of the heart of the article is. When I half halt, do I do it am I doing both reins, meaning, the right side or the left side, or just one, and meaning just the outside? And this is where I think the way that he puts it in this article is very helpful. It relates to the 3 points that I talked about before. A right half halt affects the right hind by adding weight to it, and the same is true on the left. It's important to realize that because it explains why on figures and movements with bend, one does the half halt on the outside rein. When you're in the canter, because it's an asymmetrical gait, even if on a straight line, you do it with the outside rein. However, the trot being symmetrical, when you do a half halt, you want to have both hind legs carry, so you're going to half halt symmetrically. And I think that is really important to think about, because it's going to help you think about how does the biomechanics of the way my horse is traveling right now influence what I need to do, that I feel that he's on the forehand or he's unbalanced or whatever. How do I half halt to get him balanced? You have to first know what is happening with the weight-bearing legs and what they're doing, and how you need to half halt before you can get the correct correction.
That is quite good, actually. I'm with you. That may be better than the other one.
I don't know. Later in the show, we're going to be covering a little bit more of the half halt, because we had a listener question. So this ties in really awesome to this, Hilary. I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah.
It'll tie in really well to our trainer tips. So listen to our Total Saddle Fit Trainer Tip of the Week, which is next on the show. And it really will, because we also talk about half halts in that. So excellent. But that's a really, really cool way to think about it. I like it. Well, that's a good tip.
Okay, so tip number 6, I wanted to kind of go in a different direction so that we're not just talking about horse biomechanics, is to answer the question, how do I keep my dressage students encouraged? Jennifer Ross did this as, a Q&A for Ask the Experts. But I really liked the following that she says, and this is for students and instructors. It's 3 questions that you always want to ask yourself going into a ride. What have you been working on already? How has that work been going? And what are your goals for this ride based on a logical progression of the first 2 answers? And I think verbalizing that tentative outline of what have you been working on, how is it going, and how am I going to, progress from there is really important before you go into every ride, and also important to discuss with your trainer, because it's going to get you the most out of that time.
No, I think that's really good. I think every time you get on the horse, you always have to have some sort of plan on every horse. I think that's one of the things that when you take a lesson, I always ask for what my riders have been working on for the week or what they want to work on, but I kind of take over the planning as a trainer. We all do. We take over the planning and say, okay, this is what we want to work on this week. And this is what I think, this is where we need to be. And this is where, but as you get on horses every day and you ride, you really have to think, okay, what is that horse doing and what is the plan and all of that good stuff. So I think that there's a lot to be said about that. So I love it. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think I try to do this, and make a plan and I talk to my rider and say, how's it been going and do exactly that. And this week we'll see how it's been going. And then I kind of make the plan from there. So basically, if they haven't really gotten the lesson from the last week and improved on that, then I think it's hard to move on. So I think, the first part of the lesson is just, let's look at the stuff we've been working on. How can we move on from that? And then a quick discussion. Okay, I think that's been going good. Today, I think we can progress to this next thing, talk about that, and then try and achieve it. Or, we're not quite getting it. Let's work on a different exercise on the same thing, or let's work on this again a little bit. Because I think, dressage is so structured on you have to achieve this and then that and then that and then that, and on and so forth. So I think it's great to come in with an idea about how you want to teach your lesson, how you want to learn, right? And how to evaluate what you've been doing and how to move on. What's the next step for that? So I think it's very, very hard. I think the first time that you teach a horse from, let's say, the first time you've ridden training level, progressing on to first level, the second, if you've done that more than once, everything is so much, more clear than if you're just learning it the first time. So I think there's you need a lot of more coaching and help and encouragement from your coach when, okay, this is the first time I've ridden first level. And then you say, okay, well, we got to, once you've gotten through that, you're like, oh, that's why you did that, or that's why you did that. And then there's, it's a lifetime of learning. So I like how you have to approach each lesson in kind of the same way and have some structure. So that's a great tip. What's next, Hilary?
Okay, so of course I had to have Suzanne Von Dietz on from her clinic, and this one is from a critique. She talks about creating an open back line, and this is a huge pet peeve of mine, and I see it all the time, and I do it too, so that's why I'm obsessed with it. But people riding with their head in front of the rest of their body. And it's something that creates a lot of tension in your shoulder area, and just in general, you're not in alignment, and it happens so often. There's two ways to approach this, and one of them I've heard her say that I think is a really straightforward way is always ask yourself as you're riding and look at a video to see, if this is a common problem. Think about keeping your ears over your shoulders so that you're keeping your head back. It's very common for people who, are working in a computer, or they talk about that neck problem that everyone has from texting all the time on their phone. This is the issue that you need to be sorting out. For a clearer exercise to be solving this problem, she says to imagine a diagonal line running from your chin up to the back of your head and stretching your neck without negative tension. And with a more open neck, it will be easier to straighten in the shoulder area too. And to feel the connection, put one hand on the back of your neck and bend your head forward and downward to feel the vertebra of the neck stick out. And there's a big one at the bottom, which is the lowest neck vertebra. Now lift your chin up so you can feel that this vertebra stays in place while the one above slides forward away from your fingers. And now repeat that while trying to make contact so that it slides back. That's what you want to feel like you're doing. You want to align your upper back so that you don't get that tension, that kind of rolled shoulder look that you'll see in a lot of photos from the side of riders. You want to get everything straightened out so that it's just stacked on top of each other.
That's a really good tip because that's actually something I personally do. So I always have to be watching that my neck is back. And I do that. I think because I'm like, I don't know, trying to make the horse go faster, bigger.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're trying to
do
lead
it.
a little bit. You're trying
Yeah.
to, let's get going.
Let's
Let's
do
get going.
it. So I have to really personally watch that
Yeah, that's a
significantly.
super common problem.
Yeah. So I really like that one because I do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I do that one. So I like that one.
I mean, yeah, when I teach, I try and tell, like, if I have a rider with that issue a little bit, I tell them to put their index finger on their chin and just push their head back a little bit and see if they can. If they can easily, then their head is probably leading a little bit. And if they can't, then maybe they're riding better than I can see. But you just think don't kind of lead with your forehead or your chin. Let your body lead a little bit. And that's a great tip because it's a really common issue. So
yes,
good.
Yeah.
What's next?
That's a really good one.
So her other solution to this is sort of a whole tip in of itself. So I'm separating it, and it's tip number 4. Another way to fix this that I think speaks to so many other things is imagine that and I love the way she says this, the rocking point of your horse is behind the saddle. So I know it's kind of like a vague
say that
thing,
again. Yes, say that again.
Imagine that the rocking point of your horse is behind your saddle. So it's located behind your saddle. So here's a way that I kind of think of this is that your horse, that instead of what you were saying before, Reese, of feeling like you want to go faster, so you're almost kind of like putting your head forward, think about behind the saddle and that you're on almost, a feeling of, when she says the rocking point of your horse, as you canter, for example, that what's happening is you're rotating and everything, all the movement and everything is coming from behind. So instead of feeling like maybe you're cantering and it's that your horse is bounding forward with the front legs, think more about them sitting behind. And then that kind of, as I think of that, I kind of imagine the back part of my back, what's behind me. It's having awareness of what's behind you. You start to I find myself bringing my head back, thinking about keeping myself, nice and upright in my body. And you start thinking about, when she says the rocking point, the activity and also the place that everything is moving up and down is coming from behind instead.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard it.
Me either.
Kind of focus on that. But I mean, if you think about it, if we could put a saddle on the horse's butt a little bit, we could be pushing the horse around a little bit better, right? Because we're actually sitting in front of the engine, in front of the power point of the horse. And so if we focus and we get everything more like, we're behind it and we're pushing the horse from behind where we want it to go, the hips, then everything will go a little easier, I think. Interesting.
And
it's all
I think
different
that,
perspectives, right?
Yeah, and I think that I like to do this if I'm having difficulty. So, for example, you're talking about the flying changes. I like to think about this because it makes me, in the tempi changes, sit back and think about the change coming from behind. Or like in the pirouettes, it makes you think about what's happening behind as opposed to just rotating the front around. I like to think about this a lot when she talks about this rocking point. Maybe you have, a different term for it, but I like that idea of, what is happening in the hind legs and how are they moving in order just to get that movement done. And that's where to me is why it's one of my top tips is, you really always need to be saying, how am I influencing the hind end versus sort of always focusing on what you can see in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
that's
good.
really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, very cool. All right, how about our next one?
Okay, so this next one seems like it's very specific, but I think, again, it's an exercise that is very, it involves a lot of different things. And it's from Upper Body Conditioning for the Dressage Rider with Helen Fletcher. It's an unmounted exercise called the dumbwaiter. And I often will talk about this in a different way because the exercise is very similar to you're going to stand with your feet hip bone width apart with even pressure on both feet from the base to your toe to your heel. And then you're going to, again, gently lengthen the crown of your head, just like how Suzanne just told you. Activate your core muscles as we always do. And then you're going to bend your knees at a slight right angle so that it mimics riding. But this is where I think that this is a thing that professionals, I think, take for granted sometimes, is you're going to take your elbows and bend them at a right angle. And it should look like your palms are facing upward as if you are holding a lunch tray. And that's why, I think they call it the dumbwaiter. So you want to feel as though you have a lunch tray or, some sort of tray with your hands underneath. And what you want to then do is inhale to prepare. And as you exhale, you want to bring your arms outward and keep your elbows in. And then you're going to bring them back. But that movement, as you return them back and then come out again and you repeat that, you're not going to squeeze your shoulder blades. It's simply feeling as though you can keep your balance as your hands can come wider and can come in. And I think this is a really important exercise to do because it allows you to feel like with relaxation you can bring your hands in and out. And I notice a lot for my students that this is a very difficult movement. So for example, if I ask them to take their hands a bit wider in the canter, if they don't have their balance, this is really hard for them to do. They're just not comfortable with that movement. It's more common that when they're unstable, they'll kind of tend to cross their rein over the wither, and it's not natural for them to want to go wide like this. So I really like this exercise. It helps with things like, if you ask for counterflexion, it allows your hands to stay wide enough so you're not doing funny things with them. It's a really good way to prepare for all the second level trot work because you're comfortable kind of going wider and narrower with your arms, as you ask for shoulder in, haunches in, stuff like that. So I think it's really applicable to a lot of different things, and it helps you start to feel comfortable with your upper back and posture, which tends to get very tight or kind of twisted and stuff as you're moving up the levels.
Yeah, I was just sitting here visualizing it, and it's true. Like it's just something where Hilary's describing. Try to visualize because it definitely makes sense once you feel that. So
I think it's our yoga move of the week.
Yes,
We're gonna start adding our yoga move of the week. Well, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really good idea.
I don't know if this is hard for people. I'm just doing it. Sorry. I was just in the moment. Thanks, Hilary, for that tip. That's awesome. What's the next one?
Well, before I bring that up, I just want to mention too, I think we get so focused on, our core, getting our hips loose. I wanted to talk about that exercise with the head and then this with your arms and, your upper body, because I think that you want to remember that you do need to have mobility there. That's why I wanted to highlight it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really key point is you have to be strong, but able to move, right? I see so many riders that just, I want to sit in the perfect place. So I'm just so tense and I'm holding myself in the perfect place that I can't really ride the horse from that point, right? I mean, I think, when you get yourself to the right balance, it's about being able to be effective within that balance, being able to move your hand a little bit here, bring your elbow back a little bit there because in the end, like the perfect posture isn't perfect if you can't influence the horse in a really soft, flexible way.
Yeah. It's a really good idea. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
What's next?
So number 2 is a really, really interesting blog post from Margaret Freeman, who's a USEF senior dressage judge and FBI competitor that has been started to blog for DT. And this I thought was really cool. I always have to talk about safety, and it's why I have it at the top of the list. She was talking about how she was at a show judging in the Midwest, and a younger rider came off of her horse, and when the EMT got to her, he went, and checked her and everything, but once she said she was fine, he actually took her helmet away from her. And then he walked out of the ring, but he, was with her, but he was carrying the helmet. And I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if you guys are big football fans or not, if you've noticed that they'll do that after that there's a possible head injury to an athlete on football teams, is that they're not allowed to be put back on the field until they've been inspected for injury. And also the helmet has been inspected to make sure that it's still functional. But I thought this was a really interesting thing, because have you guys ever seen that happen before, where the EMT has taken the helmet away?
No, I don't think so.
So I'm actually on the USCF safety committee. So one of the things that happens is when your helmet, you can't always tell if your helmet's been damaged or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a replace situation right away.
Yes, because it may look okay, like the actual shell, but I have seen helmets that look absolutely perfect, and then they'll cut into them at meetings, and they're completely shot on the inside.
They're dented, or the styrofoam is broken up.
Right, because every one of the helmets has to meet a standard, the ASTM standard, and all this stuff is you can find it online now. So I don't want to be quoted, that I say the wrong thing, but you have to be very careful. And I think the fact that the EMT took the helmet is good, because it also says that, maybe she's not ready to get back on the horse. And I think that, we're all trained very quickly that we're supposed to get back on the horse. And there are times where, yes, maybe from a rider standpoint, you should get back on the horse, but you really, really, really have to be careful with.
Yeah,
yes.
Very careful. I think more and more they're recommending, like, for confidence, but for safety. So I'm like, as far as, the litigation and stuff like that, it's actually for students, like, don't get back on the horse. Don't use that helmet again. Replace that helmet immediately. Right. That's tough, because we know how it is about riding, and you want to not spend too much time off the horse and then think about your injury and think about the fall. But we're learning so much about concussions and how they can have effects, later on. Like, you can feel okay and then be terrible in a few hours. I don't know. This is going to be a tough thing, because, definitely when we were kids and in past generations, it's a saying, isn't it? Right? You jump back on that horse, but I don't know. I'm thinking less and less that's the thing to do.
Well, I think the big thing is, too, at least from my experience, the zillions of concussions I've probably had, it's not funny at all. It's like so much stuff.
But if you ride horses, you're gonna fall off, and when you fall off, you're probably gonna hit your head.
Yeah, and then what will happen after that?
Sport, so that's tough.
Yeah, and then would you guys agree with me? Having done this multiple times, usually what happens is I fall off, I hit my head. I'm not sure whether or not I hit my head, because at that point I have so much adrenaline going, simply just from getting thrown off a horse, that usually what I do is I jump up, I feel fantastic, I'm like pissed at the horse for doing that, and I think, I need to fix their attitude. And you get right back on, and it's not necessarily from my perspective of, get back on the horse or you'll be scared till later. It's more that I don't even know what planet I'm on. And so then you get back on the horse, and there you have a horse that's proven, throws people off. Your helmet could possibly be, crushed into a million pieces on top of your head. So now you are concussed, riding a dangerous horse with a helmet that doesn't work anymore. So that's where I think, this is why it's so important to me, is I think that, there's all the discussion, whatever, I don't want to get into about riding with one or not, but there are people with fantastic intentions that put themselves in really dangerous situations because they don't understand, that they even necessarily hit their head before they put the helmet back on, and then they're back on. So I really wanted to have this be an important thing for people to know.
No, it's a really good tip.
This is a really good point. Yeah.
Because really, really good point.
I mean, if I think back, I think I've been knocked out 4 times, like right out, and then gotten back on the horse.
Yeah.
But that's just the way, that's just the way it is. Like,
Right.
Know. So.
I saw people in Europe.
That was a really bad idea. But.
Yeah, I saw
think
people in Europe that, would head first into a wall and then get back on the horse, and they were in
no
bad
helmets.
shape.
No
No
helmets. I rode in
helmets.
Europe with no
So,
helmet, falling off multiple
bad
times.
deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
bad deal. Bad news bear.
Anyways, it's
So,
getting better, right? We're going to be
it
safer.
is getting better. Yeah, it's getting much safer. And wear your helmets.
And that sounds like that EMT had the right idea. Take away the helmet. Really do a really close inspection. Try your best, but maybe not even get back on the horse that day.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
are we? I think we're ready. I think that's enough on that. Maybe we go
are
on
we ready
to
for number
our number
one?
one. Are we ready for that?
Yes. So it's still a safety one. Sorry to be such a Debbie Downer with these, but it's really important to me. So the next one, this is number one, and this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. When somebody falls off a horse, whether it's you and you know what's going on, or somebody else falls off a horse, I cannot count the number of times that someone's like, "Oh, do you feel okay? Can you wiggle your hands and feet? Can you sit up?" And the possibility that a person has had a back injury, which I did 2 years ago, and I remember laying, on bluestone that I had hit really hard. I thought I was paralyzed. The pain was like taking the wind out of me. And I had people who were like, "Oh, take her helmet off, put something under her head, let's take her boots off." And meanwhile, I'm laying there getting totally worked up because everyone's trying to, help me out and make me comfortable. But meanwhile, if you have a back injury, they could be doing major damage. So for me, I really think that is absolutely important, because we have so many falls in riding, is to really make sure that people know that if somebody falls off and there's a possibility that they have a back injury, that asking them to wiggle their feet is not going to do anything but put them in danger. They should lay there immobile, don't touch them or anything. If they have been knocked unconscious, and I'm not, a doctor, so obviously you guys want to talk to someone who can give you clearer medical advice, and I would encourage everyone to take a first aid course. But the other thing, too, is if someone's been knocked unconscious, there's a possibility that they'll wake up and be very frantic. So you want to calm them down and make sure that they don't try to get it up, and obviously call the paramedics if it's an injury like that. But I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people fall off and they're at shows and the EMT is on the way, or, you're at the barn and the first thing people want to start doing is seeing if you can sit up, moving you around, asking you if you can move around, and it's just so dangerous. And the reason I bring it up is because there was someone, he had a puncture to his heart. He had broken his rib, and he had a puncture to his heart, and they asked him to sit up. And this was, someone that is a friend of someone that I teach. And as soon as they moved him, it went through, and he died instantly. And if they had just left him lying, he would have been, they would have been able to check all of that stuff and stabilize it most likely. So please, 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 I know it's really depressing stuff I'm talking about now, but that's why this is my number one, is if somebody comes off a horse and there's a possibility that they have major injuries, please leave them alone and don't start wiggling them all over the place.
Well, I think your tip that everybody needs to take a first aid class, I think
I think that's number one tip.
That's the number one tip, because
that's what they teach you.
Yep.
If somebody's down, leave them down. Don't move them, and let the experts who trained in it, take care of the safety aspect. If it's at a show, I know we're involved in schooling shows and these sort of things. Everybody's ride times will have to go back an hour or whatever. That doesn't matter. Leave someone alone to lie in the ring or just, and be calm and let the experts do what they know how to do, right?
And being the Red Cross volunteer, I have to say, get your CPR training. If you haven't had it in 20 years, it's changed. So get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we funny enough, because we were talking about earlier on the show, is that I have a new crew coming in, and I had just literally yesterday, one of the things we're doing this summer is none of them have their CPR training. Zero. So I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to hire somebody to come out and just offer it as a service here at the barn. And it's just something we're going to do one night. And
it can be a fun barn day to get a whole group together and do CPR and do a little bit of concussion training and what to do in emergencies. I think that's a wonderful number one tip in tribute to
Yay,
Dave
Hilary!
Letterman's
Yay,
retirement.
Hillary. Thank you. Love it.
Does this mean you're retiring now too?
No.
No.
No,
No, she's not allowed to retire.
we love having her on the show.
Just asking. She's doing.
No. No, it was more in tribute.
Oh, okay. All right. Good.
Those late night guys, though, aren't a lot of them. They're retiring like every 2 years, and then they come back the next week. So
Yeah, that's
I'll
true.
retire,
Yeah,
and then I'll be
good
back
point.
next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That sounds perfect. Third week of the month, and you're back. We love it. Well, Hillary, as always, thank you so much. And how do our listeners find you online?
So they can visit us at dressagetoday.com. And don't forget to check out the blog section, because as I mentioned the past couple of months, there's plenty of new bloggers there to follow. They can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and Pinterest.
This week's EasySignsOnline.com spotlight product is their New England Style Farm Signs, their most popular line of signs. New England Style Farm Signs are very durable and designed for long-term outdoor use with no maintenance required, no wood to rot, and no paint to peel. They will outlast the old style painted wood signs by many, many years. They are available in many sizes, shapes, and styles, which makes them the perfect sign for any farm or business. Go online today and go through the EasySignsOnline.com easy step-by-step ordering process to see all the prices and options available. They also offer free, no-obligation sign proofs on all New England-style signs, and you get free shipping as well on all New England-style signs. So replace your old worn-out sign and make a great first impression with a new farm sign from EasySignsOnline.com. Visit EasySignsOnline.com.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the Shoulder Relief Girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The Shoulder Relief Girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your shoulder relief girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, this week on our Total Saddle Fit tip of the week, Philip and I are doing a listener question. So, Philip, why don't you go ahead and read us the question?
All right, here we got it via email from Sharon here, and it says, "I really love your show." So, I like to pump us up a little bit, right?
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question about the half halt. First, though, the explanation made it much clearer for me. I don't think I understood the half halt before. Thank you. My question, when doing a half halt, if the horse doesn't immediately respond, do you change the volume or continue for the 3 seconds and increase it on the next half halt? For example, if the half halt is to halt and you start the half halt with a volume of 1 or 2 and the horse doesn't respond, do you either change the volume from 2 to 4 immediately or stay at the 2 until the next half halt and start the next half halt at a 4? Thanks. Canadian listener. Thank you very much for the question. From Canada. Love it. Our northern love, right? Okay, so as far as the question, what do we think here?
Well, again, I think with half halts, it depends. I like this question because I liked the idea that we talked about the volume of the half halt. For me, especially because the question really centers around a half halt going into a halt, I want to give it a volume of 2 or I want to give a light half halt because I think with all our aids, if it's forward aids or collecting aids or half halting aids or stopping aids, we need the horse to listen to those aids. So if we give a quick half halt, the horse needs to listen to that half halt. So if I'm going from, let's say, trot to halt, and I give a volume 2, and the horse doesn't listen, I'm going to, in that particular example, I'm going to give a pretty strong half halt and halt the horse. Because that just tells them, hey, I need you to pay attention to my half halt. So for me, I would go to that volume of 4 or 5 just to make a point to that horse. And that is, hey, I need you to halt. I've asked you with my leg, seat, and my hands to stop, and you haven't. So that's a big thing for me. Stop and go are 2 things that have to always work. So for me, I would increase the volume significantly. But I also would say, okay, so I would give 1 significantly strong half halt. I think 1 is much better than, 10 of volume 3 with no response. So for me, I want to make a response. I want the horse to listen, give me a halt, and then I'm going to go test that half halt again. And I'm going to, again, ask the horse at a volume 2. Let's say if that's what my light aid, that's what I started with. And then if he doesn't listen, then I'm going to change the exercise and do walk halts or something along those lines until I really feel like the horse is listening to my aids. Philip, what do you think?
Yeah, I just pretty much exactly. So for me, I just want to clarify, like volume 2 comes only with the seat. So
Right.
I ask from my seat, no hands, right? And if I do not get a reaction, I'm going to go to, let's call it 2 to 6 or 7. That will include the contact and the hands. And then I'm going to go to 9 or 10. So I ask once, I ask again, and then the third time the horse better stop. And I might even go to a little bit of rein back. So, in between those it's quick, right? It's ask with the seat, release, nothing happens. Ask with the seat and hands, nothing happens. Then it's going to happen. And that's all within, 5 seconds, just really quick, right? That the horse has to learn to be quick off the aids. And so if you want your horse to learn to respond to quick aids, the aids have to be applied quickly. So I'm not going to ask a 2 and then wait around 4 or 5 strides and then ask again. So I'm going to ask at a 2. The next, and then there's a little release, and then the next stride, I'm gonna okay. And all the time, I'm deciding, whenever I'm riding any horse, I'm always deciding, do I need to ask stronger? What kind of reaction? It's a conversation, right? I talk to the horse through my aids, through my seat, and the horse has to talk back to me with reactions. And so, depending on, what kind of reactions I'm getting, I'm going to talk a little stronger or a little softer. And, and the other thing is just, try to really read your horse. Is he not responding because he doesn't care or he's being lazy or, those reasons? Is he not responding because he's distracted? There's different, and horses come with different personalities. So I have to cater, my lessons and the riding to the horse, to his personality. If the horse is really, a little bit of one of these hot, sharper ones, then I never have to go to a 7, 8, 9, 10 sort of thing. I can stay within the lower range of what my aids are. But if I use them quickly, I know that horses better be sharp. So I think that's, that's basically how I ride. Really quick ask and quick reaction. And hopefully you can train the horse to respond to that too, just by catering your whole lesson plan to the horse towards, what is he missing? What is he not getting? So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think that's always how you have to think about it. I like the idea of the fact that half halts, the volume changes. I think a lot of people say, oh, half halts, they're all the same. And they're not. Half halts, and it depends on so many things. The strength of your seat, how the horse is on the aids, level and training of the horse, understanding of the horse.
That's right. Half halt is never just one thing. That's a very good point, Reese. It's all dependent on the horse. The young horses, you have to half halt with both reins. The more trained the horse gets, the more balanced towards the outside rein, then you can use a little bit more, outside rein. And a half halt is different on a curve than a straight line, whether it's in half pass or an extension. That's for sure a really good point. That it changes.
Yeah. And I think that's hard for people to understand. I think that idea of, what do you mean it's not always the same? Well, I say it like when you apply the brake on your car, it's, if you have to stop quickly, you put your foot on the brake. If you can, you see an accident half a mile ahead, you put your foot lightly on the brake, or maybe you tap the brake, or whatever it may be. It's the same riding a horse. You may have a different feeling going into the corner than coming out of the corner, or setting up for a shoulder in, or, setting up for a shoulder in a Grand Prix horse is very different than setting up on a 6-year-old. And so there's a lot of things that go into that. And so I just think it's always good to think about it. And as you ride, know that you're going to have to adjust pretty quickly. As always, we love emails and shout outs and all those good things. So keep them coming. And we love answering them. It keeps it fun and exciting. You can find our show notes and links to today's guest on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter @Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a great show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will actually talk to you in 2 weeks.